30 years. That's how long the Pokemon franchise has lasted. And I've been pretty much playing it the entire time. Only with maybe 2 years that I really wasn't part of the franchise throughout the entire of the 30 years. Two events that I remember fondly were the Year of Mythical Pokemon and the Year of Legendary Pokemon. These two events were pretty interesting for Pokemon. They showed us a pretty interesting look into what the Pokemon franchise can do to celebrate an entire year. But they're weird, and I really want to talk about them. So, we're going to talk about the events that were leading up to them. We're going to talk about some of the more interesting bits about these events, and talk about how they worked. And then maybe discuss why these events no longer happen. If you're wondering who I am, my name is the Geekimist, or Yuki for short. If you guys want to follow me for more Pokemon content this year, you can hit subscribe, and if you like this content, leave a like. But for now, let's get into talking about everything that led up to the Year of Mythical Pokemon. Preamble 1. 3 Dimensions of Pokemon. So in 2013, Pokemon released Pokemon X and Y on the 3DS systems. This is strange because it was the first time that Pokemon actually released worldwide for everybody at the same time. So Japan didn't get these games first, and everybody was able to enjoy these games together at the same time. But also these games were pretty interesting because they had 3 separate Pokédex regional regions within the same game. Which meant that you could just, get a lot of Pokemon from this, including the fact that Pokemon Bank, which would connect the Pokemon Generation 5 games, meant that you had a lot of opportunities to complete your decks here. But it wasn't all within the same generation. 2014, Pokemon released Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Now, the interesting thing about this is, leading up to the release of these games, Pokemon made a bold announcement that with every single one of these Generation 4 games, you could complete your National Pokédex, which was a huge thing for them to announce. Since this time, Pokemon's always been kind of hard to complete. Mostly because it's been so many, you have to buy so many games, play so many things, or transfer up. And all that's a lot of money, even back then. So it was interesting to see that they were proudly announcing this. And between Dexnav, the Hoopa rings that were flying around the region of Hoenn, it was incredibly easy to complete your Pokédex. Well, almost. There was one thing that was missing here, and that is the fact that, there was only one static mythical Pokemon available, the Deoxys. Now, the Deoxys is awesome, and I love him, but him being the only static mythical that you get between all these Pokemon games led a giant hole in the Pokédex. 14 of them, actually. So, yeah, that's not a good thing. Mythical Pokemon were rare and honestly hard to get. And a big problem with this is, most Pokemon fans needed it to complete their Pokédexes. Some people did play the entire time, but some Mythicals were just really hard or had very short windows to actually get. Or heck, some of them required you buying a Pokemon Ranger game to get an egg. Yeah, Pokemon was weird, folks. Pokemon's still weird, but of course, Pokemon did do some stuff that was pretty awesome. The Year Without a Pokemon Game, 2015, they did release the Hoopa and Diancie events. I kind of fondly remember going to McDonald's, having to get there, go to their Wi-Fi on my 3DS to connect to just get myself a Hoopa, which, man, it's such a weird concept, having to go to a fast food place, enter your Pokedex information in, and then, get a Hoopa that way. That was weird. Pokemon, that was weird. Don't ever do. It's weird the Pokemon cards are there, but I don't know about the whole getting a Hoopa there. But it was weird because then that's 3 spots filled. But, well, man, only if there was a certain anniversary event that would come up that would completely change that. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe they will. The Year of Mythical Pokemon. So, in 2016, in January, they actually announced the Year of Mythical Pokemon was going to be an event that would take place. Now, this event was pretty unique. So how it worked was the following. Every single month of the year, they are going to be distributing one of the missing mythical Pokemon that you can see behind me. Now, with all these distributions, they are going to be done in 2 ways. The easy way, which was going onto your 3DS, going into getting your mystery gift outloaded and just getting a free Pokemon via Wi-Fi. Pretty easy, simple. The other way was in a way to keep GameStop from dying, even back then. Pokemon teamed up with GameStop or other stores across the world, not just the US, Game and stuff like that in the UK and all that, teamed up with the Pokemon Company to give these codes on cards, such as the Mew event, and as an example. And you would just go into your store and pick up these events. You'd scratch off the back, and there would be a code there to enter into with a code, part of the mystery event. So pretty much with this, you were able to actually get every single mythical Pokemon that was missing, which is pretty good. Honestly, this was a great event. I remember that back in the day, unlike the Shiny Koraidon Miraidon event, if they didn't have any code cards left, they could just print you codes onto a receipt. It's actually how I got myself 18 Arceuses so I could have all 18 form of the Pokemon in my Pokedex. It was a pretty awesome event, and I thought it was a great idea. Slam dunk idea. And it worked. Now, of course, not to mention, they had merchandise for all the mythical Pokemon they were doing that year. I remember if you seen Mew plushies, Celebi plushies, everything was available this year. And of course, as being 2016, there was plenty also going into the World Pokemon. Sun and Moon was about to come out. Pokemon Go came out in the summer. And of course, they made sure that Volcanion, right before Sun and Moon's launch came out, also was distributed during this time. It was a pretty big thing and pretty exciting. Honestly, this event wasn't problematic. Nobody missed out on codes, or if you did, you were very unlucky and had an uncooperative person at the GameStop. The only thing you could really do was just miss the time window to get a certain mythical Pokemon. This event was done pretty well, and honestly, slam dunk. And yeah, that's all I can really say. This event was really well done. Here's even one of my own code cards I had when I was getting these events back in the day. And yeah, it's crazy to think that it's only been how many years, and yeah, it's pretty well done. The only thing I would say about this, it'd be a little cooler if we could actually catch these in game in our own Pokeballs, but hey, what are you gonna do? And it's interesting. This event's a slam dunk. No issues, nothing problematic. Honestly, it's a win, an absolute win. The only thing that I would really say was a problem here is the fact that, well, let's be 100% honest. Everything was shiny locked, which, no surprise, it's a code on a card. And even, hey, they made sure that Megirino was available when Pokemon Sun and Moon came out. So, really, Pokemon made sure that nobody was going to be missing out on mythical Pokemon going into Generation 7. So, let's look into 2 years later what the year of legendary Pokemon had to hold for us. Preamble 2, Warp Ride. So, like I said earlier, in 2016, Pokemon Sun and Moon released and were the, Generation 7 games. Pretty interesting, but we're missing some of the legendary Pokemon. Only having a Pokedex of 300 Pokemon and the Island Scan Pokemon. So, this wasn't exactly a huge region, but it had a lot to do. But in 2017, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out. Now, these games are divisive and contradictory, and a lot of people didn't like them at the time because, well, why are you just doing DLC that, but selling them as full games? A lot of people were perplexed. At the time, I remember Google Plus was still a thing. Does anyone remember Google Plus, or am I just that one guy who holds on to the good times that was Google Plus? But Google, at the time, Ultra Sun and Moon had a pretty cool feature at the end game where you could play, take Solgaleo or Lunala and ride through the Ultra wormholes, and the further you got in, and depending on the color of hole you went in, you could experience catching a legendary Pokemon. Now, while this is pretty easy and simple, and every previous generation legendary is here outside of Zygarde, which has a static location, there was a key difference here. There were version exclusives, and Pokemon locked behind these version exclusives. For example, Entei would be in one game, Raikou would be in another game, And because of this, it would mean that you'd have to get Suicune, you need both Pokemon caught. Which sucks, but hey, they wanted to do something creative. It's an incentive to buy both games. And while this feature was interesting, it definitely led to a bit of a problem because, well, a good chunk of legendary Pokemon were unavailable if you only bought one of the games. I wonder if maybe in 2018 Pokemon could do something to fix that. The year of legendary Pokemon. So when it comes to the year of legendary Pokemon, things are pretty similar as they were with the year of mythical Pokemon. You have some Wi-Fi events that work very similar. Go in the mystery gift, go in the Wi-Fi, and obtain these Pokemon. Or it's going into a local GameStop or game store, picking up your code card, and going from there. And there were a list of exclusive Pokemon here. See, every Pokemon had a twin. So Ho-Oh-Lugia, Groudon Kyogre, Raikou Entei. And depending on which game you have would be dependent about what legendary Pokemon you'd get when you entered the code. You'd always get the opposite of the legendary that was currently available in your game. And all around, it's not a bad idea. It lets people who couldn't buy both Pokemon games get a complete legendary collection. And it's not a bad idea. But it's just not as exciting as the year of mythical Pokemon really was. And listen, I get it. It's free legendary Pokemon. But for someone who did buy both, it kind of was a nothing event. Well, that is until we get to the middle of the event. If you can see right here in the center of the picture, you see a certain shiny Pokemon in the middle. Yeah, in the middle of this event, Shiny Zygarde was given to both versions. And yeah, that was probably the most memorable part about the year legendary Pokemon. That was the full-on release of Shiny Zygarde. And yeah, it was pretty exciting. Now, a thing that kind of overshadows this and everything is the fact that by the time the year legendary Pokemon was over, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee were currently out on the Switch. So a lot of people who probably didn't stick around to the end of the year legendary Pokemon, mostly because they really didn't need it, but at the same time, people were just more interested in playing stuff on the Switch finally, and can't lie, really love those games. Pretty fun. But that does lead to a good question. With, 2016's year of mythical, 2018 the year of legendary Pokemon, why haven't we seen another event like this? Well, let's analyze that in the next section. Now, analyzing why we don't see events like these anymore is a pretty simple thing. First of all, 2020, which would have been the 2 years after the year legendary Pokemon, the world went to shit. Easy to say that. Everything kind of shut down. Not necessary to try to do anything, folks. Second of all, the year legendary Pokemon was never a necessary repeat event. While Pokemon were exclusive between Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet's two events, and BDSP had everything, it really wasn't a necessary evil to do a repeat of these events. Legendaries were a dime a dozen, especially with Pokemon Go put into the equation with transferring, with Pokemon Home. So legendary Pokemon were really never a problem on the Switch. Still aren't, and that's kind of a big reason why we really never had a big push for the year of legendary Pokemon to be repeated. And mythical Pokemon are actually, especially with ZA, are setting into a brand new category where they are pretty easy to get on the Switch. With only 4 Pokemon being missing from the mythical list that can't be obtained on the Switch. Celebi, Deoxys, Zarude, and if I am, let's see, what else is there? There's one, what is it? It's, Victini. Yeah, Victini. Between all of them, every single other mythical Pokemon is obtainable on the Switch between ZA, Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet, and of course BDSP. And yeah, so that means that catching all the mythical Pokemon is not really necessary to be distributed outside of temporary events for the missing ones. And 2 of them are easily available on Pokemon Go via rather static events or raid days. So, yeah, these kind of events really aren't necessary anymore. And really, distribution of brand new shiny unlocked mythicals are usually brought in with Dex completion rewards at the end of brand new Pokemon games. So, really, these events aren't necessary anymore. And that's kind of where this video concludes, fellas and ladies. And thank you guys so much for joining me on me kind of remembering these 2 crazy events. I remember living through both, and I kind of fondly remember them. So guys, thank you so much for listening. I am the Geekimist. If you want to get more Pokemon content, please hit the subscribe button down below. And also, additionally, if you guys would like to have any Pokemon videos made or suggestions, leave a comment down below and let me know what you'd like to see made. Of course, my next video is going to be predicting the Pokemon Presents, seeing what I think will come out, both reasonably and extreme. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I am the Geek. Bye-bye. Geek out.